Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Too Old to Die Young, Volume 9, The Empress. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. So episode 9 of 10, and despite previous thoughts, this episode 10 does not appear to be an epilogue, because this is not the ending of the show in any way, shape, or form.
No, it's just going to be a very short ending, in comparison.
In comparison, honestly, I think it was a bit of a leap anyway, given the way Refn works, to assume that just because the last episode was shorter, that it was going to be an epilogue.
I think it was just because it's so significantly shorter. I think it was a reasonable assumption.
It was a wrong assumption.
But reasonable.
A wrong assumption. So, we have... I like this episode a lot. Almost every scene in this did a lot for me, but I'm going to make one critique here on this episode, is that it probably felt the most fragmented of the entire season. Like, I almost felt like sections. I was like, okay, this is this character section, rather than everything feeling like it was part of an episode together. Outside of some Janie stuff, but Diana stuff that came back round at the end. Hey,
I was going to say, whoa, wait, did I miss something?
It's funny I say that though, because there's a sort of character that's revealed towards the end who I thought they were going to pull a weird moment on us and have it be Janie, and I was like, whoa, is it about to be Janie who's like not dead? Like, how did this happen? What sort of weird supernatural bullshit are we dealing with now? And it wasn't. But
I will say, had they gone that route in this episode, this would have been the episode where they'd established that as a possibility.
No, they did, because they did full on, like the opening with almost in Jenny, Diana, her waking up. Do you know what it is? She looks more like a Janie. She doesn't look like Diana. I'm going to say it. She looks more like a Janie.
What?
Jena Malone looks more like a Janie. Maybe because her name's Jenna. I don't know. But the point is that she wakes up and she's had such visions that are so intense or painful that she's blacked out from. She's lying on the floor in pain next to her pool, and it's very much taking a toll on her. And she goes to see someone over them, and part of her visions are those creepy girls, the mannequins, or well, not mannequins, they're actually girls, but they're so still and like painted that they look almost fake, that we saw at the end of the last episode. So that ties it into what we were seeing there, which obviously Diana was not in that scene. She was... Julia Fletcher is throughout this entire episode, I was thinking the name Janie in my head every time I looked at her. I don't know why, but for some reason she's...
You've been fine the entire show.
Maybe, but...
And then now you decide you just can't just remember her name.
I remember her name. I just think Janie suits her better. So she goes to see this person, this mystic, I'll say, for lack of a better specific term, and it's basically for guidance about her visions and what's happening. And there was a moment here where the assistant dude handed her there was a lemon soda. She's just sitting there with this lemon soda, and it was such a weird visual given the context of the scene that she was just sitting there sipping this fruity drink,
Sprite or whatever it was. Yeah.
But she's sitting there, and she does this thing where she puts stuff over her eyes and she talks about what she's seeing, and it's like she's trying to connect to the vision she had already.
Because the visions were so powerful that when she took up, her eyes are just screwed. They've got a what's the name of this effect? It has a specific name, doesn't it? Where it's that like the silvery with like the oil spill kind of pattern reflection in it. There is a specific name for it that I'm blanking on now.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. But she's got these eyes, and she's looking into these visions to try and see something. And she says she sees someone coming, someone naked, on fire, and she's coming towards her. And immediately, I think our heads jump to Yaritza. It's like this the only, especially this late in the season. We're going to introduce something new, probably.
Yeah.
Like
no, it's Yaritza.
It's likely this is Yaritza. That said, though, this scene did not necessarily make it clear if this was a good thing or a bad thing, because the way she describes it, it sounds a lot more intimidating than someone who's going to be an ally. Although by the end of the episode, it becomes quite clear, because I actually thought this during this scene. What if Yaritza is the actual real replacement for Vigo and not Martin? I actually thought it during this scene, and the episode kind of goes into that more as it goes on. But it just made a lot of sense to me, and so that's kind of the scene. It's this, and as with Too Old to Die Young in traditional form, by the time this scene's over, we've already had like 15 minutes of the episode because there's been so many long shots and pauses between things, and and so
It
on.
really is about that long. Yeah, I'm telling you, this last episode, it's just one scene.
It may just be one scene. It's entirely possible it's just one scene.
Yeah.
What should be like a regular TV show now? Watch the last scene just be like 50 scenes, like all like 30 seconds each, just the most quickest.
That would be so jarring. I would hate it.
The whiplash is going to be something else. But then we cut, I believe, to Yaritza at this point.
In the doorway.
Not quite yet. No, she's in.
No, this is the scene we're going to, right?
This is the scene, but she starts off in the she's at the mirror at the what do we call it, the table with the mirrors, the
dressing table.
Thank you, dressing table. That's the first I'm looking for. She's there and she's putting on makeup and whatever and mascara and blah blah blah, and Jesus shows up at the door, and it becomes very apparent quite quickly that they're role playing with her playing the role of his mother. And we've talked a lot over the course of the show about the weird incesty kind of vibes that we've had, and all that. And this is a very beautiful shot as well. And that's this first half of this scene where they're standing at the doorway and she's in silhouette, but you can kind of see through like half of the skirt that's it's more see-through at the bottom, so you can still see
the bottom a little bit.
Yeah, so you can still kind of see the shape of her pose and her legs, and
the camera just doesn't move for a good 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, it never moves. It cuts before it goes to a different shot.
It does. I was just saying that's how long this bit is.
But it stays there, and it's him, and obviously he calls her mum, so you realise they're role playing. But you get that they're specifically role playing his past when he gives her money, because we heard before about how he'd sell drugs at school, and then he came back and he'd give the money and he'd get his cut or whatever, and they play this out, and we're seeing this, and obviously it's like. I mean, obviously they've got a weird relationship, but I have to imagine you're in a relationship with someone, right? And your partner says to you, "Hey, I would like you to role play for me," and you go, "Sure, I'm a kinky person, I can get into it." And then they say, "I want you to pretend to be my mother." What is your thought at that moment in time? What goes through your head as an individual?
Yeah, is it better or worse in this scenario that his mother's dead?
It's neither better or worse. It's 6 1/2 a dozen. It's all kinds of messed up in both ways.
It is. I'm just trying to figure out if her being dead, is it actually the sexual connection that we're kind of going off of because that's their relationship, or is it more just this is a deep-seated misunderstanding of how he's processed his grief, and it's literally.
Well, I think it's more specific than that, because as the scene goes on, and they go through the motions, where she's like, "Oh, I'll give you a big reward." It's almost like a mother-son role play, but with a bit of porn dialogue thrown in.
It is, yeah. And I love the bit in the breaking character, so that he goes, "Oh, hey, should I offer me some milk or whatever, something like that." And
it's in Spanish.
They do it in Spanish to show that that's out of character. That's just out of the role play.
That's directing. That's the directing coming in. And obviously a glass of milk, and he drinks it slowly, and yada yada yada. And they end up in the bedroom, and she's putting makeup on him. Right, she's dressing him up with lipstick and whatnot.
Because he asks, "Oh, do you think I look like you?" In the kitchen.
Yes, and he outright says that his mother sucked him off in this scene. He says that. He says that this was what she would do. And while we have speculated about how he felt about his mother and the weird incestuous vibes, this is, I believe, the first time we've had outright confirmation that some sort of sexual activity did happen, which is very interesting to me because, I mean, going back to your previous question, it's kind of almost a redundant question, because it's not that it's worse or better that she's dead. It's more... It's because it's not the result of her death. It's the result of what she was when she was alive. And I think what's interesting about this is that it kind of puts him into a place where he was actually assaulted. He was molested by an older person when he was still a child. This was something he was doing when he was in, I think he said middle school the first time he brought this up. I mean, maybe the sexual activity didn't start yet, but given the role playing, he was still a kid. He was still under the age of consent. Sure. And that's been a big theme of this show, and the type of people that Yuritsa goes after are perpetrators of this. The type of people that Vigo goes after is perpetrators of this. And Martin himself, even though he was trying to flip to the good side, was a perpetrator of this. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if Jesus and Janie were a similar age at the first, the first time it happened. Just for thematic, reasons to line up. Yeah. So that was a really big revelation for me in this scene, just in the sense of tying this into everything, and the idea that Martin, not Martin, sorry, the Jesus, because of like what he went through, this is like, as awful as he is, because he says some pretty vile stuff in this episode. We'll get to that scene later, but given how messed up he is, both sexually, also as a crime boss, and how much he cares about violence and all that stuff, I think there's something to be said in this show that at least part of it might stem from the fact of his upbringing and the way his mother was with him, and the way it's messed him up. And it's why that despite everything he does and says in this show, there's a tinge of sympathy for him, that he's been made this way, that he can't process regular thoughts the way everyone else does because of this traumatic experience he's went through. And I've got other thoughts as well, stuff that Janie says later that ties back into your... Sorry, not Janie. Diana.
Not Janie.
Yes. Just if I say Janie in this episode, I'm unless I specifically start talking about her relationship to Martin or something like that, I'm talking about Diana. Right, just FYI. So this was a fascinating scene because of that, and the outright confirmations of things we've been theorizing about. And then, of course, after they're done, because again, there is a sex scene, although it's probably the most regular tame sex scene. I mean, sure, there's the belt around her, but other than that, it's a bit more typical, I suppose.
It was borderline network TV safe.
You wouldn't see this in network TV.
I said borderline.
I think the audio alone makes it not safe for network TV.
Okay, sure, the audio does take it over that line for sure. Visually, though, I don't think it's that extreme that you couldn't get it on network.
No, you can get this on network. I think you're mad. No, this is more like basic cable levels. Name me one network TV show that would show this shot.
No, I'm saying I think you could get close to getting away with this on network TV. I'm not saying it's ready to shoot straight onto network. I said borderline, as in it's close.
No, you're just wrong. I'm going to fight you on this. You're just wrong. This is not borderline network TV. This is, maybe we get away with it in USA Network. I could see this scene on Mr. Robot or something like that. But this ain't popping up on Riverdale. This ain't popping up on I don't know. I don't watch a lot of network TV these days. What else is on right now? NCIS season 25.
I don't think you have to tweak that much. Oh, you're not getting on a CBS show. Come on, be realistic.
Oh, which network then? What if CBS is off the table? Which network?
You said Riverdale there. I don't think you need to tweak that much to get this onto Riverdale, or that style of show.
You have to tweak it enough. I don't know. I think your scale here is broken.
Well, it doesn't really matter, does it?
It doesn't. But yeah, it's not network TV. It's nonsense. Anyway, so afterwards, they're talking about the next day, and because we don't know who they're talking about yet. I mean, we find out in the next scene that it's the lieutenants. It's the area sort of leaders in the cartel, but she's he's saying, "Oh, I'm going to seduce them. I'm going to make sure that I'm boss." Blah blah. And she's like, "Oh, who are you? You're not the son or the cousin anymore. You're who are you?" And he's like, "Oh, I am Jesus. I'm the king of kings." Yada yada yada. So again, it's about power. Again, we come back to this every episode. The themes of this show: power, women, and violence.
I think this is the most deluded he's ever been, though. In this point where he's saying, "Oh, I'm going to seduce them and I'm going to have the power."
Oh, sure.
When she's literally lying in bed next to him, having seduced him with all the power.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. He is. But he does have an element of power, but you do feel like he's getting played. And also, I mean, the next scene confirms that he doesn't know what Yuritsa's been doing and has no clue and will not be filled with the revelation should it come up. So we get this extended scene in a club. It's mostly empty, it's just the cartel people that are there. But there is a band playing. There's like an Elvis tribute or something.
Mexican Elvis.
Yes, who doesn't speak Spanish though.
No.
And doesn't even call it Spanish. It refers to it as Mexican, which did strike me as odd.
Give me a good chuckle.
But everyone's kind of just indifferent to it, except Latino Defoe. He's like way into it and is clapping at the end, and he's all happy about it.
I mean, it's fine, right? Throughout.
Sure.
It's not terrible.
I'm just not a big Elvis guy, really, so I mean, I don't really have,
That's fair. Well, I'm not the biggest fan, but...
Is this an actual Elvis song? I didn't recognize it, but...
I don't remember. I mean, probably.
Probably. I don't know.
It sounded like it could have been, from what I remember.
Yeah. So anyway, Jesus and Eureka just sit there quietly throughout most of this scene. The first, 4/5 of it or something like that. There's a long...
They're off on a separate table as well, watching.
They're in a booth, yeah. They're in a booth whilst there's a main table that has Latino Defoe, the one guy with the goatee who was one of the people who were asked to do the murder. Not the first guy though. It was like the sub guy before the third guy got asked. Several episodes ago. But they're going through, and this is like a regular meeting. They've got item number 12, yada yada. Item number 13.
They're taking the minutes.
Yeah. All very proper. And so Latino Defoe brings up, what about the taco trucks? And they're talking about what they're making from them, and it's not as much as it used to be. And they bring up the fact that there's the fancy hipster white guy taco trucks making more money than them.
Aren't paying their share to the cartel because presumably they don't realize. Yeah,
they're new. They've not been, brought into the fold yet. Or actually, some of the later dialogue made me think that they were paying the same rate as the Mexicans, but I don't know. Maybe the Mexicans were making direct profit off of them.
I wonder if it's just they knew they should have been. They've been told, but they just weren't. All the Mexican taco sellers were like, "Hey, this is the cartel. We're gonna pay our share, just because we're not messing about with it." And when they've come round to all the white guys, go, right, come on, give us your cut. They kind of just assumed it wasn't serious.
I don't know, the way he introduced it to me sounded like it was just, no, all these new trucks have shown up, so therefore we're not making money. Therefore, they've not tried to take money from them. So
it did at first, but then when we got to later in it, especially when Jesus came in with his suggestion of how to deal with it, it sounded to me like, no, this is something they're willingly not paying the tax at the moment.
I mean, maybe. The way I kind of read it, though, was that the Mexican trucks, there was less of them now. They were going out of business. So they were making less money because there was just less trucks giving them money. So it's like, now we have to rope in these new people to make up the difference. But the guy's like weird. This middle guy on the table is like, but we should probably just get out of that business anyway. And he's like, what, why, are you crazy? What are you talking about? He's like, well, yeah, we could do bigger and better things. Hear me out. Cartel TV.
Yeah, well, the NRA have their own show, so why not us?
And he's talking about how we could get tons of ratings from killings, but they're real killings. And obviously, I'm sitting here thinking like, yeah, but TV's regulated. Yeah, like this is just going to get you all in prison like much quicker than anything else you do would.
And Latino Defoe's going, "You're a moron," and I'm like, "Yes, he is a moron. This is stupid." And by the end of the scene, he's like, all right, this isn't terrible. Like, what? What just happened?
Joe, it's not that. It's the seduction, the appearance of more power. Even if it's ridiculous power, it's this idea that we could be famous, we could be rich and famous in ways that are different. This idea of being like seduced by corporate America and the way the system works. And of course, as soon as Jesus jumps in at the end, he's like, "Oh, you're a bunch of tits," basically.
Do you know what bothered me as well about this is? Let's go along with the idea that the TV channel is a great idea and they should have one.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they need to stop hitting the taco trucks up as well?
Yeah, they can make money on both.
Why get out of the taco game to have the TV?
Like, are all the enforcers going around the taco trucks suddenly your camera crew? Like, do you have to enlist those people as specific other roles to make the TV?
Assuming
work?
Most of these are regular paying, trucks, and they know what they're doing. How much enforcing does it actually take?
Yeah, just someone goes up and collects the money every week or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't know how often the collection is.
I have no idea, but this just seemed insane.
So yeah, so of course, and they also bring up they don't want no torture for a while. Also, to stay away from the Jewish and the Arab communities. Like, we're not trying to raise any chaos right now or attention. Just things that make some sense. But when Jesus chimes in, he says, no, it's open season. I want more torture. I want more violence. I want to turn the city into a bloodbath. And don't just raise the taxes on the white guys. No, rape some family members. That'll make them, they'll pay up. That'll scare them. Yeah, he's wanting chaos. He's wanting a bloodbath. And Eureka's smelling through the whole thing. And I can't help but feel from her perspective, outside of maybe the taco truck, because this is like innocent people's families getting attacked.
Probably, yeah. But until he starts going, hey, just violence free for all on everyone, she's probably mostly on board.
Yeah. Of course, I want to see what she's cooking come next episode behind his back. Because I expect some fun. And obviously, Latino Defoe tries to talk sense into him, but he's like, no. We're going to be violent. We're going to be this, and we're going to, outlive. And again, it's this idea of power. He says, like, oh, we're going to make money, so much money that we'll weigh it instead of counting it because it'll take too much time. We'll just weigh it. Okay, we made this many, kilograms of money this week, and just move it in. It's that
like
way.
What a bank does, essentially, where when you deposit it, they just weigh it all, and it's like, well, we know how much each denomination weighs, so it's easier.
Sure. But yeah, again, it all comes back to power. It all comes back to control and everything else, and money. And this idea again that he's this messed up. He's having to do this to assert his own dominance, to assert his own power, to feel like he's the king of the world because he's so messed up from the way he was controlled as a child, from the way he was abused as a child. He's lashing out, and he's so screwed up from his upbringing that he has to keep vying for more control because it's something he never felt he had. So even though he is, role playing out his life and how he was treated, the idea that he is, trying to kind of assert himself and show himself as being the one in charge, of being the biggest, baddest, because this is the way he looked at his mother, that she was the biggest, baddest, scariest person, and he wants everyone.
Probably was.
Yeah, and he wants everyone to feel that way about him. He wants to go out there and feel, again, the most powerful anyone has ever felt. As he says, the king of kings. Being king's not enough. He wants to be the king of kings. He doesn't want to be the king of his cartel. He wants to be the king of every gang and organized crime unit in the city. He wants to control everything. Nothing is enough for him. Because he's been left with this first because of the way he was treated. He wants to prove that he's better and that he's stronger and that he's tougher, and it's how he's messed up by being abused. And I think what's interesting about this, to then wrap it back round into everything we're doing with Diana, I said her name, yeah, look at me go, is that ultimately Martin was the false prophet. He was the false one to come in and take over, because thematically it makes way more sense in the show for a woman to be the one who kind of carries the torch forward. Because it goes back to what I said way back in the episode 1 review. I said the one sort of critique I had of episode 1, which it seems to be intentional now looking back on it, is that there was no strong women characters. Diana wasn't even in the first episode. Eureka wasn't in the first episode. It was very much a man's world. It was men in control.
Down to the opening scene was just all about that.
Yeah, that was the theme of what the episode was. The show has largely been about that. And when we get into the stuff with Diana later in this episode, and the idea that thematically it makes more sense for Eureka, or the High Priestess of Death, to take over, is this passing of the torch where no, a woman can be the one who fights back. It can be a woman who takes control, and it's what ultimately makes Jesus, I don't want to say a chump, but like he thinks he's in charge. He thinks he's the new guard, but ultimately it's really Eureka who's taking control.
Because that's what I said. He was completely deluded.
Yeah.
Say,
it's a power play. Like him sitting there making this speech is nothing but ego. It's just him wanting to feel like he's the one in charge.
Yeah, exactly. It's childish.
Yeah, he's throwing a tantrum. He's shown all the other kids in the playground that they all have to answer him.
Yeah. Basically, he's had his authority questioned, and now he's overcompensating to go, hey, look, you're going to do everything I say, no matter what it is. And
no matter how extreme and ridiculous and over the top.
Pointless it might be, because they're not in the business of pointless violence, murder. They're there to make money, right? Most of them.
Yeah.
And that money comes with power and other privileges, don't get me wrong, but to them, they don't want to just kill, the hipster taco truck vendors. They don't want to just kill them. They want to take their money. They want to get their, they want to. They're fine having them there as long as they're in their system. Whereas Jesus is like, yeah, just kill them. Do whatever you want. I don't care.
Yeah. Then we come to Vigo, who has a very interesting scene with his mother. Very, very operatic. The 5.1 mix was very loud. The brass when it came in was absolutely deafening, and it was
still somehow less operatic than one of his later scenes.
Sure, yeah, no, the Vigo and Diana theme, which I was listening to in the soundtrack after I was done because it's such a good piece of music.
Such a good soundtrack,
is what plays later. But this is a very bombastic, this one, and it's him sitting there, and there's a speech playing, but he takes out his fake eye, and the speech is talking about going out and like scorching the earth and violence and all the rest of it. And he puts his eye down, and his mother in slow motion like picks it up. And I was like, is she going to eat it? Looks like she's going to eat it. And then she eats it. And then she gets up and walks away. And actually, because of the way it transitioned to her just not being there, almost, even though you see her getting up, the way it transitions from his perspective, where she's just not there anymore, I almost thought she was already dead, and that this was just like symbolic, that she wasn't really sitting there. And it seemed like she actually was, because he goes, but there may be more time has passed than we realize from the moment she left to the moment he realizes she's gone. It might be like a weird transition thing where like, it's hours later and she's not there anymore, and she's lying dead in the other room, and he walks in. And the way I read this scene was that his fake eye kind of represents him pretending to still be a normal person, and that he's ready to take that out. And I think the idea that his mother, who's about to die, as she's dying, takes it and eats it, and symbolically takes it with her, is the idea that
you can't have this anymore.
With her dies any enthusiasm or care he has to pretend to be normal. Like that was what was grounding him to
I think it goes back to, I think it was last episode with Martin. What was it like when he died?
Yes.
That conversation, and we were talking about, was it actually talking about Vigo in the past, symbolically, and this kind of carries on with that theme.
It's the idea that, like, much like Janie was starting to ground Martin, Vigo's mother was what grounded him, and with her passing, any desire he had to pretend to be normal or keep up with that. I know he puts the eye back in when he goes outside because it's just practical, but symbolically, the idea that that's taken with her when she dies, that's what the scene is symbolizing. So, no, really solid scene in that sense. And he goes to Diana, and she's like, he's like, oh, I need to kill someone. I need to do it now. And she's like, well, some things are lining up, but we're not quite ready yet. He's like, no, I need to, admits that his mother died and that he needs to like kill as many as he can. Like he needs to get this out of him.
Yeah, he's like, I'll take Martin. It could help. She's like, well, don't think we're going to be seeing him anymore.
Yeah. She can sense that he's gone.
I think it's weird how overt, yes, she is psychic and has powers in this episode, whereas up until this episode we were like not sure at all. If anything, I think we were more on the side that probably not, and she was using her job and it was just a nice story, right? It played into the theme.
It doesn't surprise me either, though.
No, I'm not saying it was a shock, but I was more of a okay, I guess she does have powers.
Well, I think what's interesting about that is the idea of opening it up here to that possibility is kind of like, much like a lot of the characters in the show, like the show was intentionally narrowing our viewpoint so we weren't aware of it. The idea that we were almost ignorant to it, so that when it opened up, it was like, oh, there's more to this, and we, something that we just never would have thought of, perhaps out of our own sort of narrow-minded view of the world. But she reluctantly gives him this job. There's an entire trailer park full of sex offenders, and she's like, it's dangerous, you may not come back, but he's ready to go. And we get maybe the most stylized sequence of the entire show.
And that is saying something in this show.
Vigo walks into this trailer park, and it's already kind of like interestingly, like, it's that kind of crack of dawn lighting where it's still quite dark, but there's a bit of light coming in. Mm-hmm. But then all the light goes away, and he's in like just the negative black space, and everything he shoots is just like in a black space as well. A lot of slow motion, just individual people getting shot.
trailers blowing up.
There's a naked guy. There's little huts blowing up. There's a Santa Claus dancing at one point.
This is surrealism at its finest.
Oh, it's absolute surrealism. The Santa Claus oddly actually does make some sense. If we're talking about predators here,
oh sure,
it just made me think that that's how he lures in his victims.
It's an easy way to get to them, isn't it?
Yeah. So it goes through all this, and you have a variety of characters dying, and again, very operatic. This was another, every gunshot was like thunderous. Like, I almost considered turning the volume down, almost. But
I did turn it down. That's because I know on the other side of that wall there, as to where I'm watching, there is a roughly 1-year-old baby asleep, and I know from past experience, if I place him in too loud, it will wake up and start screaming, and that can interrupt. It's just annoying. It's inconsiderate.
Yes. What it cause any screaming after midnight? Check out a horror movie podcast called Screams After Midnight that I did with Tim.
Shameless.
So easy. And we get this scene with Diana, who's sitting in a restaurant, and she's we don't know for sure that she's waiting for Vigo, but it's kind of the assumption that she's probably waiting for him, but doesn't necessarily know if he's coming back. This idea that she sent him out on this mission and it was dangerous, and because I actually thought the last gunshot that sort of ended the music, I thought almost might have not been his. That it might have been one of those moments where you hear a gunshot and then you realize after a moment that he's the one who's been shot.
It could have been, yeah.
It kind of played almost like it was going to be that, and then he sort of held the gun up and I was like, oh, maybe not, but she's talking to the waitress and she's asking for pie. She doesn't want apple, but the cherry pie, the waitress said she's kind of claimed, if that's okay, she was going to take it home to her grandmother. And the camera is very clearly hiding the waitress's face, and this is where I thought, are we going to get some sort of weird Jenny reveal here, where Jenny's like it was some sort of David Lynch-esque.
You're just saying that because of the cherry pie.
Maybe it was the cherry pie that's making me think of that. Dougie was going to walk in. I was going to connect the universes at the end of the scene.
It's just put it in your head, all this cherry pie talk.
But and she says to her, you're going to take some cherry pie home to grandma, just like Red Riding Hood. But did you know that in the original Red Riding Hood story, the wolf didn't eat her at the end? That's not what happened. And she's like, oh, so would you like to hear the original story? And she's like, sure. And she eventually sits down. It's not until quite late on in the story that we finally see her face. And it's the woman from the start of episode 1, which is a really neat thematic bookend now that we're right at the end of the season to kind of tie this back in. But the point of the story is that the wolf instead rapes Red Riding Hood and doesn't kill her, just says, I expect you back here tomorrow so I can do that again. And she's like, but Red Riding Hood's an experienced hunter. She's not
Yeah, she's the woodsman.
She's the woodsman. So the next day she comes back and she's prepared and she guts the wolf, from end to end. And the point of this story is I think very clear again in the themes of this show, and the idea that Yuritsa went through something when she was younger and came out the stronger character for it, better than Martin did. The idea that Jesus went through this thing and instead of being stronger came out this weird, dangerous individual. But it's this idea that just because this person has become a victim does not mean that you have to accept that you're always going to be a victim. You can come back and you can fight and become stronger. And that's not the end of your story. And to tell this story to the person from the first episode, this woman who was attacked like this, oh, not attacked, but threatened and belittled in the way she was in episode 1, and this idea that no, that's not the end of your story. You're still here. You're getting your cherry pie. You're going home to your grandmother. You're not done. There's more to this.
But and this is where I really like that we got the confirmation of these psychic powers earlier on in this episode. Because when Diana's telling story, I believe that she actually has seen and knows, okay, this person has been through something. Maybe she doesn't know the specifics, but she knows something happened, and this story is relevant to her, and it's not just a story. Yeah.
So instead of the usual story, it's not Red Riding Hood is just killed. It's Red Riding Hood comes back and is able to sort of earn justice and earn, call it revenge if you want. There's a separate discussion to this show if revenge is something that's healthy, because it's very much not. But
it's not, and I think this show has played with both sides in that.
yeah,
We've seen everything Jesus did was revenge,
yeah.
right? But then clearly, in some ways, Vigo, Martin, Yuritsa, it's all revenge as well. In depending on how you interpret.
Here's how I sort of look. Even though they're killing people, so it's not a perfect comparison, but it's kind of a Batman thing in the way that they can never be normal. They're always going to have this fire inside them, so they might as well channel it into something good. They might as well channel it in a way that's beneficial to something, to the world, to anyone. But the idea is that they're just not normal anymore, and they're never going to be. They're always going to have this inside of them.
Yeah, I think weirdly, probably in terms of comics, the best comparison is probably the Punisher, right?
Yeah, but I've never read the Punisher, so I can't really relate to it.
Okay, fair enough. But just okay on the idea that something terrible happened to him, he got revenge, but then just the direct revenge against that people, that's not enough. That doesn't solve the problem, and then decides to be more proactive and stop it to other people as well. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing here.
Yeah, where was it? Yeah, so Vigo does walk in. Vigo walks in. This is when the main their theme kicks in. This operatic theme comes in with the singing, and sits down, and they have some pie together. And she says, we're going to meet someone new soon. I don't know when, but she's coming. It kind of confirms, like, no, this is confirming what my mind jumped to earlier on. It's no, Yuritsa is the replacement for Martin, or so for Vigo rather, instead of Martin. And Martin was a decent attempt, and he maybe could have been better, but he was already too far gone. He'd already done things that couldn't be salvaged, both between his relationship with Janie and his previous sins. Whereas Yuritsa, in many ways, is a more pure kind of vengeful spirit, as it were. So,
yeah, and I don't think that they're saying that Martin was that bad.
Oh no,
that obviously Dan was quite happy to have Martin around and use him, and was quite happy with that at the time.
Oh no, I'm not talking about what they think of. I'm just talking about in the themes of the show. That's why That's why Martin failed, is because he was too impure. He already had to pay for his sins. He was already too far gone.
I think we spoke about that a lot last episode.
We did. Whereas Yuritsa, on the other hand, isn't. As far as Yuritsa has killed people, but it seems to be mostly the people, the right people she's killed, essentially.
We've never seen her kill anyone for personal gain, shall we say.
In fact, it's mentioned that it's brought up in the scene in the meeting. That was the last point that was brought up, is that there's this angel of, the High Priestess of Death. We should do something about it. And she's got this smirk on her face the entire time.
And what was Jesus' suggestion?
He was like, find her and like
feed her
to her family.
And then put her head on a spike so that everyone else can see it.
He is her family, so that'd be an interesting thing. So this has to end with her killing him, right?
Probably.
Unless we go down the route that he is also a victim, so it's not quite the right thing to do. But he is also completely okay with them having girls that they're selling. So,
yeah, it's one of those things where, yes, he is a victim, and there is no denying that he is a product of his upbringing and his past as a whole. But that can only excuse so much of what he's done.
Yeah. Well, he's been a vile human being. Everything in the back half of this season has been him, his ego and trying to prove that he's the biggest, baddest person there is. Even
in just this scene, the 4 or 5 lines he has of what he suggests to do.
Oh yeah,
that's enough to be okay. No, he's too far gone.
Yeah, he has to be taken out. This is absolutely vile what he's suggesting. So, so we end on a really happy kind of note where they're sitting there eating pie together, and the music's swelling up, and it's this sweet thing. And and she's like, "Nah, someone's coming. She's coming, and we're going to have a replacement for you."
Now the question is, does this? Obviously we only got roughly half an hour. Do we have Yuritsa kind of showing up at the end and being like, right, okay, taking her place after the events of stuff? Or is it there is 15 minutes of Diana and Yuritsa talking about things?
I don't know.
I can see it going either way.
I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say how they're going to use this last half hour. But yeah, it could all be one big scene. It could be...
I would not expect any more than 3 scenes at a maximum. Just given the average length of scenes in this show, I think more than 3 or 4 scenes and it's going to feel rushed. Which is weird to say because it's still half an hour, but in context of this show,
I'm not making any bets, but we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. So no, I'm excited. You know, I like where the show has gone. You know, it's so weird that we killed off what felt like the main character in the last episode. But this episode feels like it's doing so much for like the overall message of the show. It's the sort of thing where you could probably have done this entire season in 1 2-hour movie. Like you probably could have done, and made the same dramatic points. But what makes this Refn is how much he's just bashed in every single scene.
Oh yeah. Do you know what? Like the opening of this, we've talked a lot about the sound over the season and how utterly dead it is at points.
Oh sure.
Never more so than the opening of this, where we're outside and there's a pool, and you can see there's motion in the pool. Like it's lapping away, and you should be hearing that, and there's just nothing.
Yeah. Also, just one final point. As I never said this at the start, I just want to make it clear that I'm pretty sure her crippling pain from these visions were happening as Martin was being killed. I think that's what the image of the girls kind of links it to. Is it this was the same time?
Yeah.
That was the impression I got anyway. So, and hence why she knows he's definitely dead, because she felt the pain essentially. Maybe not the literal pain, but the pain of the emotion of it.
Yeah, because over the course of this job, and this partnership, she's developed some sort of connection with Martin.
Mm-hmm.
She probably has a similar connection with Vigo. To the extent where, okay, so should something like this happen, she'll feel it.
To an extent, she still seems relieved when he appears. So I'm going to say that it's not a clear cut. It's not clear cut. It's not like
it might be that she may have felt it if he had gone, but she wasn't sure. She didn't know she would feel it. If that makes sense.
Okay.
In the sense that maybe she didn't realize that she has the connection to this extent. Maybe Martin is the first one of people like this who has died on her watch, and that was the first time it's happened to her. So should Vigo die, she would experience the same thing again, and then she would make the connection herself. But until then, she might not know.
I think what's interesting about this show is that looking at it as a whole now, not a whole. It's about 30 minutes left, but now that we can kind of see the overall idea of it better, is that I think it's very interesting to cast your lead actor, a known name, this white dude, and you set him up as this kind of replacement savior over the course of the season, only to then say, no, he was never worthy. You assumed he was because he was the main character and because he was the white dude. But ultimately,
it's actually this Mexican girl over here.
Yeah, no, but more specifically, the idea that, it's almost poking at the idea of the straight white male lead,
it is,
right?
Yeah.
It's almost on a meta level, taking the idea of what you think of as the hero of a story is, and saying, no, the hero of the story can be anyone, and it can be this person over here. I think it's important in this story that she's specifically a woman, because I think the themes of how women are treated in this are very, very important to it. But
it is, and I think her not being white adds another layer.
It does add another layer. But I think that is a big part of the show, and I think the idea of killing him off, surprisingly, at the end of episode 8, is a big part of that statement, and saying, no. It's essentially a very long version of the opening of Scream, where you cast Drew Barrymore and you kill her off in the opening scene and say, hey, no, she wasn't your main character, haha, we got you, she's one of the first victims.
Do you know what's really funny is going back to the first episode, we said, this feels like the last 2 hours could be Drive. And everything up to that is just, okay, this is before Drive. And you kind of get that in the sense that, hey, we're building up to it. Oh, actually, never mind. We're doing something else now. In that analogy with Scream there, it's kind of very extended, but it kind of fits that timeline nicely.
So, no, that's episode 9. So we got one left. Excited to see what's doing. I think what's interesting about it as well, just the point I made there, is that, again, going back to what I said in episode was, I really hope there's some strong women characters that are introduced in the next couple of episodes. It's just kind of funny looking back and how the first episode and the build-up of Martin's character was almost playing on that. It was playing on the idea you think it's this one thing, but it's actually saying...
It makes it less of a complaint and more a very intentional choice.
Yeah, it's more of a red herring as a narrative point, and is a very kind of artistic thing to do. It's a very ingenious thing to do, because it feels like it's made its point in a way that, like, you have to trust it and sit through the whole thing, and I feel like a lot of people won't. I feel like there's a lot of people who will watch the first episode of this and go, I don't like this for this reason and that reason. And the funny thing is I feel like, I mean, sure, if you don't like the pacing and the way it's shot, then
I think most people will be out because of the direction and the pacing more than anything.
But I think there's some thematic things where at the end of episode 1 you might go, I don't know if I like this, because it's all these, like, tough dudes, being masculine as shit. But the actual show, by the time you get to the end of it, is a critique saying, no, their world's over now. Like, their world's gone.
That's the entire point.
But you don't get to that until quite late on in the season. So I feel that some people will kind of shy away from it and go, I don't think I like this because of...
I do think that it isn't till after Martin dies that you actually realise that's what the point of the show is. Because, they've been introduced. We've been talking about how Yuritsa is the power in her relationship for at least half the season. But it's not until he's actually out of the equation where you go, oh shit, she's the only hero left standing, kind of, as the new blood, the new guard. And it kind of suddenly clicks into place.
Yeah. So there you go. That is episode 9 of Too Old to Die Young. Let us know what you think of the episode in the comments below. We'll see you next time for the finale. And this, for the record, was much quicker from episode 8. we did not have as much of a gap, so it should be similar with episode 10, given especially that it's a lot shorter. Yeah. So we'll see you soon for that. And if you're looking forward to more 3% reviews, once we're done with this, we're going to focus on that as the catch-up kind of slot. So look forward to that. But let us know what you think of the episode. You can support us, of course, on patreon.com/MaileFuzzTV. If you want to keep all the content coming, you can support it by going over there and donating as little as $1 per month for access to some bonus stuff and some early stuff. But mostly just show your support and keep everything coming. It's the main way we're supported and financed. And you can, of course, also get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates, and also like and subscribe, rate the podcast on the podcast app that you're using, all that kind of stuff. All of that does help. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?